This issue is not just about what they did to this president of Harvard University, who was the first black woman to be president. It's about they used her as a scapegoat to fight DEI. We would not have to have DEI if we didn't have DENY. We were denied. DEI was to make up for the denial historically of blacks, of women, of gays, of Latinos, and Asians. This man decided that he would stand up and say that taking out Dr. Guy is the beginning of taking out DEI. I want to come to his office and let him know that we will fight him. We said nothing when the fight was at Harvard, but now he's declared war against all of us.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. That's a campaign, National Action Number we're starting, what started last Thursday. Well, let's speak to the people that are actually there. I've got J.T. Tollinger, the videographer at NAN, and Ronald McHenry on Zoom. Gentlemen, that was the first rally. We're going to have it every Thursday.
Correct,
So,
yes.
And you're in charge, Ron, you're in charge of the rallies now. So give us your new title at NAN.
Oh, I'm just a servant of the Lord. I'm a servant of the Lord. They've given me a few titles, but I'm just here for the people.
Okay.
And we are excited to get into the fight. We're excited to get into good trouble. We know that there is an attack on women's rights in this country by the Supreme Court. There's an attack on voting rights in this country. But more recently, there's an attack on affirmative action. And the reason why affirmative action had to happen by the Supreme Court in the 60s was because we were discriminated against in the workplace. We were discriminated against in the business field. Affirmative action just doesn't deal with education, because we also receive and have been victims of discrimination when it comes to education and in getting into particular colleges. So DEI is a stepchild, or a child, you might say, from affirmative action. Mm-hmm. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's important, right? Because of DEI, we were able to get equal employment legislation like Title V of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. We were able to get the Equal Pay Act of 1963. And we were able to get the Age of Discrimination Employment Act of 1967. And all of this is important because of the legislation that kept us from being able to get employment, right, all throughout history until the 1960s. However, even though we have all of these acts, and all of this legislation, it did not necessarily mean that we had still access or equal access to job employment and to higher education. And so it wasn't until recently, we're talking about the 1990s, where we see companies taking on DEI and the efforts of DEI to serve communities all across America, to have a working environment that was safe and inclusive for all, right? I think the biggest example is DEI in the workplace at Starbucks in 1988. Starbucks was huge because of their groundbreaking hiring practices, from having diverse hiring practices, and really big with the LGBTQ community, of where they were very inclusive. And so where does that land us today? So why are we even having this rally? This rally is important because there's an attack on affirmative action by the Supreme Court. And that attack has been led by Bill Ackman, who is a billionaire. And he's led this attack on multiple fronts. And recently, he attacked Harvard professor, not Harvard president of the university, Gay. and saying that she got her job not because she was qualified, but because she was put in by DEI, which we know is not the case. We know that she did everything that she needed to do to receive her case. And then they brought up charges of plagiarism, and he threatened the University of Harvard to pull out his donations and also influence other donors if action wasn't taken against Gay being president. They also said that she, during this time of this whole Gaza and Israeli war, that there was anti-Semitism. So they brought a case against her, and she decided to resign. And the problem with this is that the case of DEI is not that are being given specifically a crutch. We have been discriminated against. So DEI helps put us on the same playing field. And we see that America does not want us to compete in business, compete in education, because it seems like when we compete, we win.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to figure out a way to keep us in an American apartheid that predates the 1960s. So we all got to get into the fight. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 11th, we will have our second rally in front of Bill Ackman's office saying that this attack on DEI has to stop, and we're not going to allow him to and his billionaire friends to do what they're doing. We're going to get this in line. We understand that the Supreme Court is a conservative court, but guess what? In the 60s, the court was also conservative, and if we got laws changed in the 60s, we can do it here in 2024.
Fantastic. JT, any comments?
I think, well, let me correct Ron with his new title. I know he's a servant of the Lord like we all are, but he is the new appointed House of Justice Coordinator, which I want to say congratulations to him. It's just another step in the right direction as far as what we do and what we can do with our hands and with our brains to bring more enlightenment to the movement. So I'm very appreciative for him joining the team of NAN and whatever endeavors we have for him. But ideally, everything, he hit the nail on the head. I have little to add from a videography or from a photography standpoint. As you know, I'm the NAN videographer, photographer. It was an excellent demonstration. I think Ron, along with our leader, Reverend Al Sharpton, did an amazing job leading us in the efforts to bring a stand to something that needs to take a stand for. In this particular climate, there's a lot of I don't want to curse, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that we have to address that is leaving us and our people crippled. We're being left crippled. We're being left to fend for ourselves. There's a lot of different attacks, a lot of different things that's happening that is coming against the very things that we marched for in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. That we now have to correct and make sure that we're, as the next generation, me and Ron per se, because I think we're the younger generation.
Yeah.
We have to stand up and say, hey, enough is enough.
Well, I
there
want
was a
you
time
to.
where we had the Martin Luther Kings, we had the Malcolm X's, we had the Coretta Scotts. I can go on and on about the activists, but I think it's just it's a powerful statement when we, as the younger generation, now say, hey, we have to step up rather, and say these different things that they fought for has to be fought for now. DEI, affirmative action, the right to vote, the different things. I can go, the list goes on, and things that we're being attacked with. But from a videography and photography standpoint, I think it was an excellent demonstration. We had, I want to say maybe 100 people that marched around 787, give me that, was it 11th Avenue? I want to make sure I give the people
11th Avenue. Yep, 787 11th Avenue and 54. Yep.
787 11th Avenue, and I'm saying that with all intentions for whoever's watching to meet us tomorrow. 12 noon, we'll be there for a full hour doing our demonstration, doing our picketing. But it was an excellent demonstration to see, and along with our leader being present. Not only was he present, he made 2 official statements, one before the rally and one after the rally, and he also picketed with us. If you see the flyers, I mean, if you see the flyer, because I have it in the flyer, but if you see the video, you see the pictures, you can see our leader leading by example. He marched around with us, he picketed with us, he chanted with us. It's not just that dogmatic mentality of the leader saying what to do, but the leader actually doing, and we're following what the leader does. So I think that's another milestone that NAN always represents. We not only follow our leader, but we actually do the demonstrations as he does in that particular fellowship. But overall, I think it was an excellent demonstration. Ron did a fantastic job leading the course of events. He's responsible for all things rally when it comes down to getting the people there, to the signs, to the how to the way we chant, all those different things. But it was a great demonstration, and I encourage everyone, any and everyone, to meet us tomorrow, 12 noon, 787 11th Avenue, NYC.
Well,
So let's get into the action. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what I like people to see is that you guys are the youth of NAN. Both
Absolutely.
of you are newcomers to NAN. I mean, in comparison to my 26 years here, and I'm grandpa.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
For sure.
God put me to the side so JT could walk into his calling.
Yes, yes.
And
I think we
want
gotta tell it every time I come on now. We gotta tell the story. So ideally, and I can tell it this time because Winston told the last time. But this particular interaction, this particular relationship is not by coincidence. I just want to put that out there. This is very God ordained. This is very God centered. This is divine calling. This is divine assignment. Winston Gilchrist is the pivotal. He's a pillar, number one, of NAN, but he was all things videography when it came down to NAN. During his time of being sick during the pandemic of COVID or whatever, his time of being sick. I don't want to go into details about the actual sickness, but ideally, I was called in to kind of help assist while he was down, and thereafter, we have been together ever since. They thought that he was going to leave, and they thought I was going to leave. We told them we both want to stay, and we're both going to do it together, and we're going to figure this out. And that's what we have done yet far. He is like a grandfather to me. He has showed me the different attributes of what to do, what not to do, even when it comes down to just how to carry myself when it comes down to this particular work. I think as millennials and as young people, we get so caught up sometimes in the quality of the work, we don't know how to be competent, and that's knowing what to do, how to do, and when to do. And I'm grateful for have someone of his caliber and of his age bracket to kind of lead the way for me.
Well, McHenry becoming a movie star now, right? He's going to have his own show soon. How about that?
Oh, on the network, right? I think we did. I think you did. That's another prophecy that you fulfilled because you mentioned you mentioned that to me before that was even in place, and to hear that is fantastic to hear that actually is coming to pass.
Is he gone?
I think he might have stepped away. I don't see him back here in Zoom.
All right. So what is it about what young people should understand about Reverend Sharpton and what he does?
I think, that's a loaded question. And I think overall, I think young people need to understand that they need to have some type of leadership in their life. I think that is the most, that's what we're lacking. That's the best way I can put it. I think most young people, especially around my age bracket, I'm 34, going on 35 next month. We don't typically have a set alone leader other than the pastor or the bishop that we follow in church. We don't have anyone we can look towards as far as leadership when it comes down to how we are supposed to conduct ourselves and how we are supposed to understand this country. I think we look at the government as the government, the people that run the country per se, but I'm talking about someone that you can actually model after and look and see the direction on which path you're supposed to go to, as well as how you're supposed to designate and see the world for what it is. I think Reverend Sharpton does a magnanimous job of breaking down, and if you're not watching Saturday Action Rally, you might want to tap into that every Saturday at 9 a.m. You can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Impact TV, or 1190. Don't quote me. I think it's 1190 or even 107.5 that we are live on the radio as well. But it's an impactful time that it's a group of people that come together. And if you want to catch us live, you can catch us live at the House of Justice in Harlem. But it's an impactful time where this this leader is able to literally break down subject by subject not only what's happening in the world currently, but even tie the history into it, and then also tie the Christian faith into it. So
Right.
you understand line by line what we are saying, why we are saying, and then we also get instructions on what to do. And to be honest with you, even the DEI Thursdays was birthed at the Saturday Action Rally. Once Rev was giving his dissertation about what was happening with the President Gay and things like that, and the whole Harvard, he actually said in his speech that we was going to do this. He said it, I think, 3 weeks ago, and then 2 weeks ago, he said we was actually going to do it. And then by the following Saturday, we was in full steam ahead saying we're going to be there Thursday, and we need these people to represent us. But I said it all to say, having a leader like Rev is so crucial in this time, to have someone you can listen to, draw to, and not only listen and draw to, but we have NAN chapters all over this country that you can be a part of and gain the same information, the same insight that we are getting, and we're able to disseminate. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, if I was not following Rev Sharpton, I probably would not know about DEI Thursdays. I probably would not know about even President Gay and Harvard and the whole situation. There's a lot of different factors that I would not know. And even if I did know, I would only know the surface of the details. When you follow Reverend Sharpton and when you follow Nan, you get the full story of what is happening and how it benefits our people.
Right. So well put, man. See, I give you as an example of what the youth should be concentrated on. And you're God-centered, so that's what's very important. So I'm going to run a clip I think you might be interested. It's John Henry Clark about religion.
Perfect.
So can you play that, Roland? I mean, if you have time, JT, I'd just like you to watch this one.
Yes, sir. I'm right here.
All right. Can you play that, was it item, I think it's 1. It's John Henry Clark. One of our ancestors, an important one. Born in 1915, sharecropper's son.
Spirituality from religions and understand that out of our spirituality came the world's religions. The God concept of those religions, of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, came out of what I refer to as pre-God religions. I don't use that anymore because people don't understand what I mean about pre-God religions. They're so accustomed to the word God, they cannot understand that there was a time when man thought of a force in the universe presiding over the universe, and while he meant God, he did not use the word God, and man had more spirituality before he consistently used the word God. He used the God force and the God concept without using the word. He meant the same thing, and ultimately Western man interpreted that as meaning the same thing. Spirituality is a way of accepting the fact that there is a spiritual force in the universe larger than all of mankind.
Let's go back during the time of antiquity. The word antiquity means ancient time.
Yes.
There was no religion, no place on planet Earth. You have to realize that. Going back into Africa, you will find the Africans living in the continent of Africa not having a religion, but they had a spiritual way of life that included the ancient Egyptians also. They paid homage to their ancestors. They paid homage to nature. They knew the laws, the cosmic laws of the universe, and they lived their lives according to these various laws of the universe.
Man must be in harmony with nature. Man must not be in a violent struggle against the elements. And that man and God and nature are in partnership one to the others. And all of the elements work with man, and all life is linked together in cause and effect. In a harmonious chain, there was no death, but a continuation of life. And the European concept of life is a violation of harmony. When you look at Russia and the United States, look at their struggle to control the world, it makes no sense. It is out of harmony. Not only with nature, it is out of harmony with common sense. It is a violation of nature to poison the air, to endanger babies. Nature gave you fresh air to breathe. You throw everything out of harmony when you put poison in the air. God created the spring, God created wind to purify the air. He didn't do this for man to put chemicals and spoil the air so that the child couldn't breathe. The African thought about all of this as part of the totality of life. So his religion stemmed out of bringing life in line with the harmony of God's creation. And if we are to create a new way and a new harmony and a new decency for all people, we must bring things in harmony with nature. Because this is the basis of what this ancient African did. This is why he could have 3,000 years without a war.
Now when we see something like this again, where our ancestors were into something deep. But again, look very closely. Now that we have broken that down, you see that this person has become what is called a netter, or a spiritual one, or has become God-like, because he rose up his pineal gland, as you see the serpent here. Now his third eye is open. His spiritual eye is open. Okay? So again, we looked at nature. We used symbols. Why did we use symbols? Because symbols operated on the collective consciousness of the mind. Okay? We still have, as Brother Dr. Richard King pointed out, which he expounds on this very well from his research, that even though they have destroyed our libraries, they have not destroyed our genetic libraries that's in us.
Our genetic library within us. Amazing. If you study ancient Kemet, which is ancient Egypt, John Henry Clark was our ancient. JT, you was a youngster. You're not familiar with all this, are you?
No, sir.
This is John Henry Clark.
I just took down the name that I gotta do some research on.
John Henry Clark was our. Well, tell us what you remember of John Henry Clark, Leroy.
John Henry Clark is one of the major educators of black people in New York City. There are others in Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. What do I mean by that? Because you never saw them on a national stage. But in New York, we saw them as national because the essence of New York. However, when you go to different cities, you find that there's a John Henry Clark type in those cities. That's the first thing. The other thing is that John Henry Clark was a scholar, and people will refer him in the present tense as is a scholar. He's a brother who, in his latter years, he ended up blind, but before that, he was as much an educator as anyone walking and talking and breathing and seeing. He, along with Dr. Ben, Dr. George Simmons, Professor Scobie, Professor Shashi McIntyre, her husband, musician.
Don't forget
I think his name
Jeffries.
is Ken. But all it, the period of time that we're talking about for the brothers here, the younger brothers here, the newer brothers, I don't like to use that term younger. The newer brothers here is that the consciousness of black was dominant in New York, period. And most dominant with the Harlem Renaissance. When you go back and start reading those books, accessible author is the sister, oh man, she has a lot of short stories, and she did a lot of research down south. I just can't call her right now. But another source, see, John Henry Clark also knew and was known, I don't like to, he also knew. There was a group of individuals coming up in the 30s and the 40s, J.A. Rogers. You got J.A. Rogers' book, From Superman to Man. If you read that, you ain't gonna back up at all. If you read the book, From Superman to Man by J.A. Rogers, you're not going to back up off nobody telling you about the inferiority of black people. Let me cut to this guy Ackerman. The guy's a billionaire. In that world is dominated by trickery and favoritism. So if you were to talk to one of his enemies, they'll tell you just how he got to where he's at monetarily. Also, Ackerman is a point person. He comes out of a group, just like the rest of these guys come out of groups. We tend to see them as singular. They're not singular. They're out of a group that you and I don't see. But we have to know that they're out of a group so we can deal with the one that comes after them. And they are not as smart as they propose to be. This thing about diversity, equality, and investment, affirmative action, that hit on the sister in Harvard. That's a group hit. The group is us, black people.
Yeah.
It's not a singular thing. You
it.
cannot look at it as being just her. Oh, she made $900,000 a year. And no. This, when you find any professional, any black man or woman who gets to that position, they didn't get there because of diversity. Let me be very clear on this thing. They got there by diversity, but not the way they projected that this person was picked out and put in position. It's not that way. They go through a whole lot of hell to get to where they were.
That's right.
And then this thing about plagiarizing, and when they find out that his wife did worse, not even worse than what the sister did, the sister didn't plagiarize, but they have marketed a lie that lives beyond the truth that came after the lie. They have marketed a lie. And the most important people that they want to convince is us, that we were in position, given positions, and didn't earn it. Every time that I was in a professional position as affirmative action, and every position, I counted. I always count these things before I forget. I had at least 6 different jobs based on affirmative action.
Yeah.
Every job that I had, the people I reported to, I knew more than them.
Yeah.
And I was new to the job. I didn't know that I was
You had to be smart.
that I was sharper than them.
Yeah.
Their positions
had
in
to be.
corporate America, in education, in politics. Man, this stuff is so, laden with favoritism, and they tell us we got to vote. No, we have to learn as individuals. Let me back up. I don't want to spend all this time. We have to raise our leaders. We have to raise our leaders the way they have been raised. There's a new group of individuals in Africa, and you have to study them, not to be like them. You have to study how do all of a sudden they have the same mindset. But there's a prime example of why it's important for you young brothers to know the history and to know the roots of the affirmative action and diversity. It is important because there are groups of men, let's say in the fire department, they got a whole group of young black men and women who've come in, but they don't know what it took to get them there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They do not know what to get them there, and it makes them vulnerable to be picked off by the people who don't want them there.
Right.
But the young brothers don't even know that. No, like Brother Leroy. I had a job, I hadn't worked in weeks. I was on Super E. I got into this job, and the blacks approached me to be a part of the black, this is Black Leroy talking now. Black Leroy.
What year?
78.
78.
They approached me to be a part of the black caucus. I said, no, I just got here and I don't need to make no waves. That's a Negro move. That's a Negro move.
Yeah,
but I was in the position that I was in because of their fight.
Yeah.
To get more blacks in, and the company had to produce individuals in different positions.
What was the law?
Well, it was
That's how I got my
lawsuit.
job.
It was the lawsuit.
No, I got my job in 70 because they had to hire blacks in a position.
Yeah, well,
my corporate job came that way.
Well, the
affirmative action.
It amounts to the same thing.
Okay.
You see, affirmative action was there, but the company don't have to. They took the position to make me do it, just like this guy Ackerman and the rest of these people. Look, what is most important, brother, is that the black professionals who've gotten jobs from the 70s on, they owe it to our people to teach our people how to conduct themselves in certain positions. And I'm not saying that we're messed up or anything like that. When I got into corporate America, my parents were superintendents of a building. Mm-hmm. How they gonna tell me how the thing works? They can't tell me. But based on how I tore my behind, every person that I could tell what happened to me in one of these jobs, I told. I said, they're going to do this, do this, do this. Here's what you got to do. Last thing. The brother, my frat brother, Steve, was in Cincinnati. I'm in New York. We hadn't seen one another since graduation. So I tell him something that happened to me in corporate America. He said the same thing happened to me. He's in Cincinnati, a different company than one I'm in. I said, somewhere they're colluding. They are trading notes on how to get rid of black men, how to get rid of black women. And the very last thing I want to say is this. I'm not into women's rights. Follow this. I'm into black people's rights. When the black man loses, all of us lose. When the black woman loses, all of us lose. When you saw that so-called congresswoman berating the black woman, yang, 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 that was a group thing, man. She was getting the cookies off on a black woman who had been who had been advised by legal not to go beyond certain words and phrases. So John Henry Clark was a fighter. His legacy remains among many of us, but the most important thing you will get from John Henry Clark is read, share notes. And if what young people get from, my opinion, what young people get from Brother Sharpton is when they come to the meeting, they hear never give up, never give in. If you don't fight, you won't win. That's what you get.
Well, Reverend Sharpton uses his own, struggle as an example of a black man struggling in America. Because I've got 13 years on him, and I listened to him, and I lived that part of his life.
Right.
I was right there. Leroy and I are 2 days apart, JT. We hung out on the same corner as teenagers. Beverly was there too. So this is a whole crew. Your grandparents, and this is the hood in the 50s. Me, Leroy, and Beverly. We had a place called the Sugar Bowl.
That's right.
Where we hung out as teenagers. And we were the cleanest people in New York. Dressing like this in the 50s.
That's right.
Still are, still sharp and intact.
This is the way we were. But New York was the best place to be if you were black in America at that time. Mind you, we're the same age as Emmett Till. Okay? So this was our youth. How, in comparison to what you're talking about at 14, at 35, I was in a corporate structure in 1970. They hired me in a textile company. I was a salesman. They hired me because the white guys dealing in this corporate structure didn't want to deal with Jewish people in the fabric industry. So they hired me to deal with the Jews. And I brought in these people that my biggest sale was in 1974. I've got a picture of me and this whole crowd because I was a hero. I sold 750,000 pounds to this double knit machine, polyester back in those days. This is 74. I sold 750,000 pounds from a factory that they had a problem, so it had to be sold under. This guy was a subcontractor for Sears. Had 200 double knit machine, Jewish guy. So he couldn't get the credit from the bigger companies, or WASP companies. Jews still had horns back in those days. Oh, Graham. I forgot about Graham. Graham, what's your experience in racist New York? Well, you were a cop during the 70s, right?
I'm coming up on my 50th anniversary in law enforcement. Next month will be 50 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. When you talk about diversity, yes, the people that came before us, those are the ones we have to thank. The Voting Rights Act of 1963 was started in like 1913, 1920. It wasn't Martin Luther King. It was people that were long dead and gone that started that agenda. They had gone on and others picked it up and kept it going until the Voting Rights Act was passed. It was generations of people. As a transit police officer, Adam Clayton Powell, I owe my job and my pension to Adam Clayton Powell. The Transit Authority was not looking to hire black people unless they were a porter. So Adam Clayton Powell pressured the New York City Transit Authority to hire blacks as train operators, as conductors, as supervisors and such. When I joined the transit police in 1974, I scored high on the exam. As a matter of fact, I was so high on the list, I got a call from NYPD. And they were trying to get me at that time. I said, well, I didn't take the NYPD test. They said, no, but you're on the top of the transit police list and we want the people from the top of the list. I said, well, you don't qualify high enough for me. And I rejected them. But in the process, yes, affirmative action it's a game. Anytime these people set up something, it's like the Wizard of Oz. You got to pull back the curtain. White people never had an intention to even want to sit down at a counter with you unless there was an economic gain. My mother was an activist in Washington during the Second World War. There was a guy that owned a restaurant in Washington, D.C. And keep in mind, there were slaves in Washington, D.C. during the Civil War that were never emancipated by Lincoln. So Lincoln freed no slaves. There were slaves in Delaware, which was part of the Union, fighting with the Union, but there were slaves in Delaware. Lincoln freed not one black slave. It's a lie. Now, getting back, my mother was working in Washington, and this guy had a restaurant. He said, every time a nigger drink out of a cup, I break it up. I throw the cup in the garbage. So my mother got all the women from the secretarial pool in the War Department, and they went to that restaurant. And they ordered coffee and cake and everything. They just kept buying. And my mother said she listened to every dish and cup and glass being broken after they got through eating. And then it was quiet in the restaurant. Why? Because the fool broke up every dish, cup, and plate that he had. This is in 1942, 43. You're not going online to buy dishes and have them delivered by Amazon tomorrow morning. Not in 1943. He was out of business for a few weeks. The integration was a program to get black people's money. That's what it was. It wasn't about the goodness of their heart and then looking at you as an equal. Black people had their own businesses throughout the South and the North, but they realized that if they could open the door, let the black people come in, they can get their money. And what happened to black businesses? They went under because everybody wanted to go where the white people. So the black businesses failed. Peg Leg Bates, who had a resort in the Catskills up in Cahockson. We used to go up there as kids. He had the only place in the Catskills where black people could go. They couldn't go to Browns, they couldn't go to Neverly, they couldn't go anywhere. Integration come, what did the Negroes do? They go run into the white establishments. And what happened to Peg Leg Bates? He went bankrupt. If you don't support your own people, you will never have anything. All the mom and pop stores that have gone under, white and black alike, for shops like Home Depot and all these people going to Amazon, ordering through Amazon, you're killing people's business. And you got to look. There's a site called corpwatch.org. Now, I don't go in Starbucks to buy their coffee. Their coffee is terrible. It's overpriced. And more importantly, the owner of Starbucks is a Zionist, and he's funding the military in Israel to kill Palestinians. But you got people that look like us running in Starbucks to help fund the death of other people. Nike, another company, paying their people 36 cents an hour because none of their employees in their factories are white. Working in factories where they had no protective covering, no gloves, no decent air circulation, and nobody was working for Nike past age 26 because they all had cancer or skin cancer or some type of respiratory illness. Nike. Meanwhile, Uncle Tom, Michael Jordan, was making millions of dollars with Nike, talking about, well, I don't control the price of the sneaker. It only cost $17 to make a pair of sneakers.
Well,
and kids were getting killed in New York over pairs of sneakers. And he said nothing about it. But in this whole thing about diversity, equity, and inclusion, when they came up with this program, the initial program, I forgot what it's called, it was to help women in business. The black man was the last to get a shot. If you go to the Small Business Administration and look at the stats, if you're black and male, you're the last one to get a dime from the Small Business Administration. The majority of the people that benefited from the program were white women. White women, not black women, white women. Why? Because the law was written and it was their husbands and their associates who owned the major corporations. So they set up satellite companies underneath their husband's business and went in to get the money as a minority owner or as a woman.
Yeah,
And the
Graham.
money went right back to the very people that were supposed to be relinquishing some of the contracts so that minorities could get a dollar.
Well, I go back to John Henry Clark talking about spirituality. What we're talking about now is corporate greed, self-centeredness. There's nothing spiritual about any of this stuff that we're complaining about. And we've fallen prey to it ourselves. Now, I want to get back to the spirit and what God has called us to do. And it's to call us to get back to basics. That's all. Get back to basics and what you're here for, your purpose. Now, JT and I have a master plan on how to bring out the spirituality in Nan, and which we see every day. A man guided by God, and for the upliftment of us as a people. So all of us have to get on the same page when this comes. And how to relieve ourselves of the greed and selfishness that dominates the planet. And JT, you as a youngster, how do you see all this? Now, what you've been exposed to just here.
I'm kind of full off a lot. I was listening to Graham, and I was listening to the other, I think Larry, I believe the name.
Leroy.
I'm kind of full because y'all was saying a lot. I was taking it all in at the same time, taking notes, because there's a lot of stuff I want to go back and kind of study on. But the young man in the studio with you, he said something that was so powerful that I can't leave untouched. And then Graham kind of said the same thing, so powerful. But the first thing I remember him saying was, one of the last things I remember him saying was that people like Bill Ackman and that whole system of people have a society of communication that we're not privy to.
Right.
And it goes back to what Graham was saying, at the root of it, of what it was built, what it was made for. It was not made for the benefit of accommodating us.
Right.
It was made for the benefit of accommodating them, right, and their price style and what they wanted out of us. In retrospect, in anything we do, in any sport, in any division of work, in mostly anything we do, we stand firm on being the best, and we stand firm on being adequate and more than enough, most of the time surpassing our counterparts as the black race.
Right.
From sports to Wall Street, I can go down to Black Wall Street. I can tell you a whole list of things. I'm sure you guys can probably tell me more as being my senior, but it's a lot of different avenues in which we are better.
Right.
What tends to happen is they give us an inch,
right,
and we take the mile.
Right.
And when we take the mile, they get offended that the mile is now, because we're never saying we're going to take the mile.
Right.
We just want the opportunity to realize that we can take the mile and take the whole damn show if we like.
Right.
But the reality is we have to be conscious to understand the systems that's in place, and we have to find leaders like Reverend Sharpton again that are orchestrating their own communication that is not secretive, but if informational and it's available if you want it. And that's where we stand firm, and that's where we bring back the whole society, the DEI, and that's where we stand. That's why we're going to do the picket tomorrow and things of that nature. We have to create our own level of communication and secretiveness, or however you want to draw it up, to make sure we're all standing together on the same page and standing for the same rights. And I think once we do that, that brings back our spiritual and divine purpose into what we're called to do, and that is to stand for our rights and stand for our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Yes, but JT, you just reminded me the situation with Dr. Gay at Harvard. We look up to their institutions as something to strive to be at. 2/3 of all black attorneys in this country, I think, or half of them, have come through Harvard Law School. We have, my brother was at Harvard, they didn't come from Harvard, I'm sorry, from Howard University. Half of the black attorneys in this country have come through Howard University. Tish James is a Howard University graduate. I was listening to her this morning at the funeral of a friend of ours who passed in Brooklyn, John Flateau, professor at Medgar Evers College. Mayor Adams was there. The governor wasn't able to make it, but she sent word. My brother was at Harvard University about 30 years ago on faculty. He said it was the worst place to work. He was advising Black and Latino students who were losing their minds at Harvard.
Right.
Princeton University, another place. I know personally people who have gone to Princeton, they said they wouldn't tell anybody, Black or Latino, to go there. The mental anguish they put you through. And we need to understand what is the value of their ice water compared to our ice water. Their ice water is not better than our ice water. And we need to start investing in our schools, our institutions of learning.
Absolutely.
And knuckle down with that. This country is not going to be heaven on earth. They're not doing away with racism. We got to stand strong on what we are and who we are, but we need to build our own stuff. And stop taking the best of what we have and giving it to Xerox and giving it to Alcoa and this company. We need to take the best of what we have to build our own stuff.
You're triggering me yet again. And I say that to say, this year I had an event day one. It was January 1st, 2024. But I had an event, and it wasn't really it was an event. Let me just make sure I prerequisite right. But I have a lot of friends and family. Maybe it's about 5 or 10 of us that are really close, all friends, all family. We gathered through the pandemic. During the pandemic, there was nothing to do but hang out, be with friends, be with family. And I don't know how you guys was, but by the second week of the pandemic, we was like, listen, we all don't got COVID. Let's all meet at this house. Let's have, let's enjoy each other's company, so on and so on. And that's what we did. And that continued until everybody trinkily had to go back to work, one by one. But with that being said, we built a bond, we built a family, we built a connection. Now, with that being said, we kept that going until 2022, 2023, 2024. We kept going, until I got to the latter of 2023, and I was planning an event for January for us to link and us to, have breakfast and brunch on day one. And I said, okay, we're gonna come together. But then it clicked, and I realized we are no longer. Well, let me just put it this way. I will no longer let us gather, just to have drinks, just to have a good time, just to have laughs. I literally had a small seminar, which you would say, maybe 20 or 30 people. And we gathered, we had breakfast on day one, but almost at the conclusion, maybe an hour to the event, the end of the event, I said, listen, I am doing everything I know I am supposed to do for my destiny, for my assignment, for my spirituality, for my religion, however you want to put it together. I need you guys to meet me where I'm at. And with that being said, I need all of us in this room, the 30 and 40 of us that was in the room, to realize we can accomplish any and everything we want to accomplish if you put your mind to it.
Right.
And not only that, the people in this room are people that are actually doing it right now in this sector. Now, if you're lost, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know how to do, talk to someone around the room and understand that your help might be your neighbor. Now, when we get that help, and now we are the elite at the top of our chain, or corporate, or graphics, or video, or whatever you do, whatever your thing is. Once you get the help you need, because truth be told, if I'm at the top of my game, then I can help the person. They might not be in the same field with me, but I can help them expand their vision to understand you can do what you want to do, and you can be at the top of that field, or whatever it is. Once we get to the top, that is the key, that we stay within our community. We need to support one another. Businesses support one another with struggles, questions, whatever we have. We now have to become the new Black Wall Street. And what I told them was, it's 30 of us here. How do we make this 60 on the next event? Then how do we make this 120 at the next event? Then how do we make that 2 whatever at the next event? Because we now have to reconstruct the mind to realize Number one, we can do whatever we want. Number
Right,
two, our community within us is our biggest benefit and support. Thereafter, no one will be able to stop, because we're already, if we do this right, we will already be elite at our field and at our profession. Now, if we do this really right, then we become a unity, a community that we can say, okay, the 30 people that was in that room the first day, let's go down to Times Square and buy a building together. That's the new community I envision, and that's the new community I think we have to build.
You know, in the transit police, when black officers came in, we met with all the black officers. And we gave them a background history and let them know they weren't qualified to be there until they helped somebody else get there. Just because you took a test and came in, you're not qualified. You need to help somebody else from the neighborhood get in here and get a position. And it's not about just getting a position, but moving up in rank so you can become a supervisor and control what is going on and set policy and procedure. I remember talking to a young man. I was the vice president of the Guardians. I spoke with a young man and I said, listen, if you expect to get a pension here, you're gonna have to make some changes. And he listened. That guy is now the mayor of the city of New York.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you don't know what 10 or 15 years is gonna bring in the life of another individual or even for yourself.
You got 2 minutes, Graham. I got 2 minutes.
Wow.
But I just want to mention, Reverend Sharpton mentioned that recently, wasn't that last Saturday? He mentioned
yes, sir. Absolutely.
And 100 blacks from law enforcement who, what was that statement? I forgot what it was.
Well, Reverend Sharp, I don't know if people know this, but he can tell the story best. But at the time that Reverend Sharpton was at the height of, I don't want to say the height of his career, but the height of the climate of people trying to attack him, not only did Mayor Adams sign the incorporation papers for NAN, but at a particular time when Rev was being threatened on a higher level, Mayor Adams, and this is when he was a police officer, this wasn't when he was the mayor, this is about 30 years ago, he and 100 black men stood with Reverend Sharpton as security detail.
Well, Graham was part of that.
Oh, there you go. I'm sorry. I'm telling the story as if I know the story based off being heard. I wasn't even probably born yet. But I know you probably can tell it better. But I think that's what we have to do. And I think we have to go back to the basis of understanding we're all connected some way or another. And that goes back to the spirituality piece of knowing what you're here for and your destiny, your nature, your assignment, and doing that in totality. And with the black agenda at the forefront. And I can only preach my blackness. I can't preach anything else.
Right.
Thank you. I mean, I couldn't have planned this better. JT, thank you, brother.
Of course. Grandpa, I get this off from you. When I came in the NAN, the young people say woke. I wasn't this woke when I came in, and now, as you see, there's a fire in me that has to get out. And I won't let it. Yeah. I won't let it just be me on fire. Yeah. I think we have to really pay conscious enough to understand we have to light other fires.
Well, I'll see you tomorrow at 12. Now announce.
I will be there tomorrow at 12.
What is it we're coming to?
Oh, tomorrow is we call it DEI Thursdays. 787 11th Avenue in front of Bill Ackman's offices. We will be picketing, we will be protesting. Come out, join us if you're in the area. If you can't come out and join us, link on to nationalactionnetwork.net. There's a way to support us. There's a way to support our efforts. We would love to have you be a part. Tomorrow is at 12 noon.
All right.
Okay.
We gather around 11:45, but the picketing begins right at 12 noon.
All right.
And this is our secret communication, like he was talking about earlier.
Thank you, man.
Of course.
And to you, thank you for coming. Of
course, thank you for having me.
The Gilchrist Experience. The God in me loves the God in you. And stay tuned for more of the Gilchrist Experience. We'll see you tomorrow.
Amen.
God bless. Power to the people.
I got to jump off.
I hope I didn't talk too much.
No.
You're perfect, man.
God
Perfect. I
bless
just want to
you,
make sure
brother.
I didn't
You're gonna